Abusiafo, Auditor General a published a 23-page document forensic audit no mokoye into the NSS scandal no. Now the figures are scary. Mijiri say enkomo yi hyase Attorney General Dr. Dominic Ayine edika be kire mu say the amount involved no around 600 million Ghana cedis. Last week in the press conference about Rumble in the Jungle no obe confirm say a balloon to 2.2 billion Ghana cedis after the Auditor General forensic audit no. Se sia me ne uka say abusiafo amount na sa hwiri biemo attract 2.2 billion Ghana cedis no. Na me se figures no scary. What's here? We show what finger in that auditing report, no, about 17 people. Abusiafo, yeah, they want some eba. I am another Jan 20. Pacho, subscribe to channel. Say we have bell notification icon. You turn it on. Drop a video now. One sabeka video. Me sure say obey enjoy it. Share. Now share for front so and you be ashamed. Now don't forget to leave your comments in the comment section. Na and come on and you there. And I'm me nebedin come. The and say Auditor General. Me pacho forensic audit report now. Or into the NSS scandal, as NSS dealings in the last 8 years, no, when you publish it, 23 pages. Now, the may say, and me summarize about 5 pages. I want interest in the war. Unim say NSS scandal already, you're charging former executive director, or CSCB entries, and so now, former deputy executive director, Gifty Orari Mensa, or no say you're charging. Now, no, behind him say, amount involved in 2.2 billion Ghana cedis. Na anyame na meka 2.2 billion Ghana cedis no Dr. Dominic Ayine, Attorney General, last week in the press conference Rumble in the Jungle. And Obeka say initially he thought say amount around 600 million Ghana cedis. But Auditor General in the forensic audit no a balloon to 2.2 billion Ghana cedis. Memo sa kotie Dr. Dominic Ayine, Attorney General Biom, said they are appreciating conversation. How I started, na me be dumb, and me the figures in air, but me say report no, and mention 17 people be, and if ma could do song or bomudi, give to worry. According to the audit report, the Bonnie Bay and Kasani Wadi. Hey, Charlie, Nagana pa sikawa how. And yes, I mean, the figures are scary. Me they want some eba. But the calculator, Dr. Dominic Ayine, the Attorney General, or in a press conference last week, Rumble in the Jungle, or confirm me say amount to 2.2 billion Ghana cedis, but amount to the crown, a brosa, may they want some eba.
So, ladies and gentlemen, prosecutions have commenced in the SkyTrain and National Service scandals. In the case of the latter, we have filed charges against the former chief executive, executive director, Osea Sibe and his deputy, Gifty Owari. Charges are being prepared against the rest of the public officers and the so-called marketplace vendors. In all, we intend to file about 10 cases in the NSA scandal and will use some of the public officers and vendors as prosecution witnesses. Now, this is a strategy that is working very well for us, and we intend to continue to use that strategy. In a situation where there is a small criminal among big criminals, and the small criminal knows a lot, it is better as a matter of prosecutorial strategy to use a small criminal to get the information in order to be able to succeed, and that is what I'm doing. Also, I wish to announce that the Auditor General has conducted a forensic audit into the NSA, the National Service scandal, and the total amount of money stolen or illegally spent now stands at 2.2 billion, and not the 548 million that was uncovered by my investigators as at June 2025. And then, ladies and gentlemen, I have here a copy of the Auditor General's report. Again, painstaking investigation is very important in criminal matters. And so, based upon what the Auditor General has done, and this is a forensic audit, okay? Forensic audit means that they've gone beyond what ordinary, auditing would have done. And so, we are going to, based upon this, in some cases, change the charge, amend our charge sheets in order to bring fresh charges. Investigations are still ongoing in respect of the following matters: All African Games, mathematical sets, Bank of Ghana new building, stadia renovation, and National Cathedral. In the case of the National Cathedral, we have actually requested that the Auditor General should conduct another forensic audit, and he's being held by one of the big 4 accounting companies to be able to do this. Ladies and gentlemen, now to the Rumble in the Jungle. The buffer stock investigation, which are nicknamed the Rumble in the Jungle, as at March 2020, when we announced the arrest and detention of suspects Kobna Idubohi and his wife.
See, eno Dr. Dominic Ayini, Attorney General. I don't know say. Auditor General and the forensic audit in no amount not balloon from 600 million Ghana cedis to 2.2 billion Ghana cedis. And then breaking news amedema want to say 2.2 billion Ghana cedis in the ebrosa. Abusiafo akodu 2.5 billion Ghana cedis. Na MC NSS scandal no. Ade achi bia amount ni bi beka ho. Figures ni e bi beka ho. Na me go through executive summary no. Executive summary ni a 23-page document almost summarize no. One page. Me no go through. Ebesa really screen so now I appreciate document that me read from my phone you no. Auditor General and I make this document public. Now me go through executive summary ni we are afeni ma bedu dom. Enipa do so gift your worry. Dey na why ye or say be dey na why ye. Na former sports minister so yabodi di omo me de ho sem heba. But executive summary ni enie cost of irregularities. Just irregularities na ye uncover no amount ye involved. The Forensic and Technical Audit of the National Service Authority reviewed 8 major categories of financial irregularities amounting to 2,448,202,000 Ghana cedis. Who's this coming book? Am I confused? And around 2.48 billion Ghana cedis. Attorney General Dikambeka in the previous instance said 2.2 billion Ghana cedis. Ebrosa, according to Auditor General Forensic Audit and report no close to 2.5 billion Ghana cedis. Na Ghana is kawa hapa. Ska uni debate my ama Macron Ghana. Yanto aso. These irregularities primarily stem from weak controls, deliberate bypass, and it da home pa ni asada just enfam, and unsupported transactions across eSwitch and Ghana Pay payment platforms. The patrol document nyame na me kan we Auditor General, the forensic auditor okoye e National Service Authority, e me betwam na National Service Secretariat NSS scandal na ekoso forensic audit no okoye 23-page document and my the public. Na metibe we mu akonya documents na me ne matiefo and me subscribers share. The room and said the American CCA no executive summary yento aso. Now these irregularities include the irregularities no be chirem. Number 1, payment without biometric or monthly validation. Let's say payment here without biometric verification, any monthly validation. That is a bosom so yen validate you, but how payment in your make. Now, what be the national service? Your TO be bosom ya validating that. And now without biometric verification, what be that? I course in the last 8 years. Amount they involved in this irregularity, 989 million Ghana cedis. E be that so. But the rest no, me boku be yembe show. It 989 million Ghana cedis. Number 2, unverified or unsupported payments to volunteers. 40,104,000 Ghana cedis. And only irregularities amount here involved. Number 3, unverified or unsupported payments to the National Service Person vendors marketplace. And no 301,935,000 Ghana cedis. Sikapa na mibo this and abujafo. Irregular payment exceeding 13 months. And no 1,070,827,000 Ghana cedis. The trust to be irregular deductions not accounted for 28,537,000 Ghana cedis. Irregular payment to former officials. Irregular payment to former officials. And no 8,256,000 Ghana cedis. Payment not found in the system database. And no 7,508,000 Ghana cedis. And the last one, unaccounted banking transactions. And on quite 55 million Ghana cedis. A German summer form, Abujafo, a German summer form say kukura. A German summer form. Me did so one drill. What figures on one drill? Miss me one dreamy. The figures are scary. A new national service dream nekata se shepa. Auditor General report ni ye room. Na gift your why day. Former sports minister Mustafa Yusuf ya boni di e wa hanim say dey na why me de ho sam eba me be dwom from here side amount. But amafo bebrebusa say na National Service Secretariat scandal no e sha ase sen. Ebi nim person munyante ase. Papa Efeno Suleiman Abraham or executive director Emma Media Foundation for West Africa. Fourth Estate for Juma di omudi e no ana yɛtwa so mfaso ana yɛnya so mfaso a and the national service for omo to adadi no in the last 8 years me mo akwa kotie Suleiman Ibrahima ekwan omo fa so a omutimi started national service scandal hu investigation ai na wo cheche mu wie no ubutu hu se fourth estate for mo bodjuma media foundation for West Africa mo bodjuma ya Ghana for so ye bo mabaso Suleiman Ibrahima abushafo enjoy this ye ba afa gift o we bone potin ya waye no chale uyambesho.
Thank you, Samson. Let me start by saying that, well, what has happened is a vindication of the work that was done, because you know that right from the beginning, there were a lot of condemnations. We had people going around, media organizations, saying that the work that had been done was basically lazy journalism, desktop journalism. We didn't do anything extraordinary. There was nothing about what had been revealed and all of that. So I think what is happening, even though yes, it's a legal process, we will wait for the outcome. I think it's a vindication that at least what was done has led to the state, taking it further to probe. And I should also say that the team at the Media Foundation for West Africa is grateful to the Attorney General for the acknowledgement that he made publicly about how the work that was done by the Fourth Estate laid the foundation for the subsequent investigations that were done. Essentially, I believe, as the public is aware by now, we did that work, and it took us about 6 months because the work started sometime in April 2024. And by the time we were done, this was around October. And that was when we then started writing to various people that we needed to talk to, including officials at the National Service Secretariat and now Authority. So we had written to the now, the Director General, his deputies. So that included Madam Gifty Owari and Kweku Ohinijan. We had written to Gibbs to try and get records of payment, and that was about an RTI request. They denied us what we had requested because they said, well, there is some confidentiality clauses between them and National Service Authority. So in the end, we couldn't get the opportunity to talk to these people because they were not willing to speak to us. And it was at that point that we also made it clear to them, well, your non-availability or unwillingness to respond to questions we have wouldn't stop us from publishing. And so we indicated we were going to go ahead. And that was when, they went to court on our blind side. And something we are grateful, for the defense that you continue to put up for us in the courtrooms. So they filed that injunction on our blind side. And as you've narrated, we thought that this was an important story to just allow some flimsy legal processes to get it settled or not published. And so we had to, file petitions to the OSP and subsequently to the oral committee. Essentially, our discoveries were that there were thousands of persons who were on the, NSS database. And we had also established the fact that many of these, and again in thousands, were people who had gone through the payroll. In other words, they had been paid. So initially when we started the whole publication, the backlash was that, oh yes, they could find their names in the database, but what is important is to find out whether they were paid, because the metric app that is being used would ensure that whoever is on the database who ought not to have been there would not go through the process, even at the regional level or at the district level, let alone getting paid. But we had evidence that many, in fact, thousands of these people had been paid, because the database at the back end would show whether somebody has been paid or the person has not been paid. So you take somebody's name, the person has been paid, then you look at the database in the system and realize that this is a 90-year-old person. So you ask yourself, but how can a 90-year-old person do national service? Then you look at another person who has been paid, and then you realize this person is 13 or 12 years old. So quite clearly, there were a lot of things happening. And Samson, you are a media person. At some point when people feel you are doing genuine work, they would come on board to help you even uncover more. So at some point, we did have persons who are familiar with the national service system that we could contact to verify, and they would tell us, oh, no, if you have discovered this, then this is what is happening. So it was obvious that millions and millions were being paid annually. And again, what exposed them even more was that when they made a presentation to Parliament, the Parliamentary Committee on Education, they had to then present the actual figures of persons that they are paying. And we looked at it and looked at the numbers for the previous years, and it was obvious that we couldn't have had schools that were graduating, thousands and thousands more students just within a year. Because if you look at 1 year and it is 80,000 people who were enrolled for national service, and the following year you have, let's say, 150,000, how come all of a sudden in 1 year we have a difference of about 70,000 additional students eligible for national service? And so, we were convinced that there were a lot of wrongs that had happened, but eventually we thought that GIPS, the interbank payment system, also has questions to answer, because and we engaged them. In fact, it was after the engagement that we did a request to ask them to give us the payment data, which they declined. But when we met them, in fact, they assembled their whole management team to brief us about how they engage with the national service payment system. And at that point, their point was that, well, for us, it's garbage in, garbage out. We asked them about this marketplaces system. And they said, well, it is garbage in, garbage out. We don't know who is doing service and who is not doing service. At the end of the month, national service will pass on to us the people that we should pay, and then we just go ahead and pay. But now that we are discovering that sometimes one e-switch card would receive payments for multiple national service people, which shouldn't be the case, why was GIPS allowing that? The other question for me, essentially in terms of strengthening institutions, is while all these things were happening for multiple years, the internal auditor at the NSS, what was he or she doing? I don't think that the person can say, oh, well, I was just there in name and earning my salary. If you are an internal auditor, you are privy to the system, you are part of the system, you can audit the system and understand what is happening. So all that while, what was happening? The other point, Samson, is that the AG talks about 653 million in the context of these two people. But what has been lost to the state in terms of the entire national service thing is over 2 billion. Now, we were told earlier that there are some people who have pleaded, to come under plea bargain, and they will refund monies that perhaps were wrongfully paid to them, or they wrongfully, misappropriated. And so perhaps we are only being told about the monies between these two people and not the entire amount that was lost to the state. So as I said, it's a vindication. It shows that journalism, when done well, can at least help the state to strengthen institutions, to at least fight corruption and, protect the public purse. People would say, well, it is just the beginning of the trial. Yes, it's true. But I don't think anyone would want to stand trial for causing financial loss, charges of stealing, and so on and so forth. Nobody would love that. And so if we have a situation where institutional heads and people responsible for managing our resources would do the right things to avoid at least being prosecuted, it's a way to help save this country. As you and I know, we lose millions, in fact, not millions, actually, billions of cedis to corruption every year. And again, some of the works that we are doing, the previous ones, SML, the ones that are ongoing, even the NLA things that we are fighting on, we've taken up currently, it shows how much the state is losing. And if we were able to save all this, perhaps we wouldn't have a situation where the president...
Media Foundation for West Africa, omo executive director Anna Ocheche Musuleman Abraham, Fourth Estate for so investigation. It may uncover the rot at the National Service Authority in the last 8 years. Now the only says 17 people, key people. Auditor General say omo audit no. Empanyifo dun sun we omo na ya post. The ebe chire mu ane say empanyifo dun sun we omo na ya post ya omo di djuma. Enti no se bibi ko so a approval bi ko so ya empanyifo no bi and I approve the document DB. I'm going go through. Number one, or CSB entry. We know a executive director and as a director general from 2021 to 2025. Mustafa Yusuf, or a former sports minister, no executive director from 2017 to 2021. Gifty Orare Abuaje Mensa, deputy executive director, general services from 2017 to 2025. I'm Kwaku Ahirijani Abonidi, Paul Owusu-Apia, Ima Hammond, Albert Otin, Robert Nila Ikuma, Benjamin Freeman Kusi, Eric Nyaku, Idris Abubakar, Mark Danso, Jemima Anoche Boatin, sorry, Armstrong Issa, Oxford Bonsu, Angela Boatin, Anna, Abraham Gazy. Yenka so my bonnet, but according to the audit report, no some penifo do soon way and an at post. And the Auditor General caption, the following were the key personnel at post during the period of audits. Na amanfo busa se gift wari waye den me wie gift wari de no na fe de ma source na janto enche mo betenka on the Sokatwa show right here on Nana Janto TV. Now deputy executive director on NSS payroll, you see Miss Owari Abuaji Gifty Afia Mensa, yeah, the National Service Code nika ho. The deputy executive director of NSA was enrolled on 16th March 2021. Was enrolled on 16th March 2021 and placed on the NSS payroll as national service person despite already being a full-time salaried public officer. Gift away no a salaried worker, public officer, a tax Janica. Name yes, I to national service scheme no so. Since I'm trying to bia in 2021. The enrollment was based on Master of Public Administration MPA degree from the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology KNUST. She was placed on the payroll and 100% of her monthly allowance for 12 months in the 2021-22 service period, amounting to 6,708 Ghana cedis was deducted and paid to a vendor through marketplace for a purported credit facility. She was enrolled as a service person along with 4,556 others irregularly, costing 899,000 Ghana cedis. Honorable Mustafa Yusuf approved her PIN on 22nd April 2021. Refer to appendix blah 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 obenya document no. Enti Brofude nyina say Gift Owari ye enroll on the NSS scheme in 2021. Mustafa Yusuf on na saton executive director on na approve the PIN no. Abusiafo and some the dewa it is screen no me really document na Auditor General making it public nyina wo so. Say na be aba appreciate enye bosremu ka enye ma adwumi na me ka a documenter Auditor General I'm making it public and I'm reading the some people me involved, especially Gift Owari Mensa any or CSB entry. The former executive director no ya charge you Attorney General charge you issue ni bekoso investigation ni bekoso court case ni bekoso na de besi bia no yemfa enkamo yemfa dwuma de nsia Nana Janto TV ni aha Sokatwa show ana de dwuma de ni ebrem NSS scandal no nsem ana eguso etwon enkomo but the only say me pa cha obe subscribe channel no we are bell notification icon